Hey guys, Marissa at KitchenTableStamper.com. I have got card number 2 in the September Paper and Ink card class series. This Thankful Each Day for You card is card number 2 in a 4-card series. This is card number 1. This is 2. This is 3. And this is card number 4. The links to the other cards in this series are found in the description on YouTube or in the blog post under September Paper and Ink card quick links. All right, so let's get started with this card number 2 by talking about what you need to make this gorgeous fall card. Look at that bouquet of leaves. Isn't that just so pretty? And this wood slice. I'm just in love with this technique. I cased this out of the Stampin' Up catalog. There's always great information and resources provided by Stampin' Up for their demonstrators. All right, so my card kit here is already ready. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what's in it and what tools I use. These are the kits that I use for the actual classes in my Rolling Meadows home studio. I just grab a kit so you get an idea of what you're coming into when you come to a class. So the first thing I've got here is this gorgeous, pretty peacock linen ribbon. And the linen ribbon comes like this. It's a really beautiful, probably 1/2-inch wide ribbon with a peacock scallop trim on both sides. And it can give you a really gorgeous bow for treats or for packages. It's a little bit bulky for cards. So taking a cue from Stampin' Up and their designers, we just cut one of these little scallop edges off of this ribbon, and then we've got a narrow, pretty peacock scallop ribbon that we can use a little bit more easily on cards. And this one ties up just beautiful. So here's the ribbon, how it comes, how it's intended, and then here's the little peacock scallop strip. Now what you can see is that it's a single-sided ribbon, and we've cut that little scallop edge off, so there could be some fraying. So you want to tie a loose bow and then see if you've got any fraying. After you've tied your loose bow, then you can snug things up, hold the center of the ribbon and pull the tails. And then to complete the look, we're going to take this one tail that's kind of got the linen color. We're going to twist it, turn it over so it's peacock side up, and then snug it all up. So there's the two. Both tie pretty bows, but for a card, this little scallop edge is just the perfect size. So there's our bow, and that's the pretty peacock scallop linen trim. All right, now I've also got a few items that are done ahead of time. We'll start with these two little pieces of early espresso. These are early espresso cardstock, just scraps, and those are cut with the sprig punch. And then I've got a piece of Sahara sand cardstock here. Finished size, it's about 5 by 1.5, and it's embossed with the corrugated. Corrugated's out of stock right now, but Stampin' Up assures us that it will be back in the new 3D style shortly. I've got a piece of scrap here. This is Cajun Craze. I've got a scrap of Sahara sand, and the Sahara sand is for this wood slice here. So you need about 3 by 3, just scraps for my leaves. This is about 2 3/4 by 4 maybe. Designer series paper, and it's 2 by 4. My card base is Cajun Craze. It's 8.5 by 5.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4. Let me show you the tools that we're going to use to make this card. I've got the buffalo check background. Love this for fall. That cozy flannel's just gorgeous. Then the To Every Season bundle includes the To Every Season photopolymer stamp set and the Every Season punch pack. When you buy these two items together, the little punch pack and the stamp set, you save 10%. I love this all occasion. It goes fall and Halloween, winter and Christmas, Valentine's Day, and then the little bats again. So fall and Halloween. And the little punch pack punches out this medium-sized heart, bat, snowflake, and leaf. We're gonna use the leaf today. So let me just leave that guy there. I've got my Rooted in Nature stamp set. We're gonna use this big wood slice and leaf from Rooted in Nature. And then I've got the Nature's Roots dies to cut out that leaf that we're gonna stamp. So we're gonna use this little cluster of leaves right here. The Stampin' pads for this project are Old Olive, Cajun Craze. I've got my Tangerine Tango because my Cajun Craze is missing in action. Early Espresso and Crumb Cake. Let's get right to our stamping. I'm gonna grab a Stampin' Pierce mat and get the ink pads and we'll get going. All right, let's start with this wood slice. We're gonna do a technique called rock and roll. We're gonna ink up this, I don't know, it looks like tree rings, right? So we're gonna ink up the tree rings in our lighter brown. I've got Crumb Cake here. We're gonna ink it up very well. All right, once you've got your wood slice here, your tree rings inked up well in your lightest color, the Crumb Cake, then we're going to take soft suede. I'm sorry I didn't have that one for you in the list. You also need a soft suede. So 3 shades of brown: Crumb Cake, soft suede, and Early Espresso. Now we're gonna take our soft suede ink pad, and I like to hold it in my non-dominant hand. Hold the stamp in your dominant hand. And we're going to actually rock and roll the edge of this stamp that's already inked with the lighter color onto the darker color of ink. Do you see that? So now we've got a stamp that's inked with 2 different shades. Now I've got a sponge here, and I'm gonna pat the sponge in the Crumb Cake ink, get it good and inky, and then just right where there's 2 colors, those 2 shades of brown meet, I'm going to lightly sponge my stamp. And what this is going to do is it's going to make a softer blend between those 2 shades of brown and give us kind of a nice variegated look, a nice transition from the soft suede to the Crumb Cake. Now if there's anywhere that you want to add a little bit more soft suede, this is the time. Anywhere that you want to pat. Now you're going to huff on the stamp. Huffing on the stamp reactivates the ink, puts some more moisture into it, and we're trying to reactivate that Crumb Cake ink. I'm going to give this a minute to transfer, just pressing with moderate pressure. And there's our very cool rock and roll technique. Now it lightens up as it dries. The last shade of brown, that Early Espresso, we're going to use that for this Thankful Each Day for You greeting. This is from the To Every Seasons stamp set. We're going to stamp that just a little bit low of center. Isn't that just the coolest effect? All right, now we slide that to the side and we're going to let it dry for a minute. Then we're going to fussy cut it with our scissors. Next I've got some Pear Pizzazz cardstock here, and we're going to ink our leaves in Old Olive. So we're going a shade darker. We're going to stamp 2 of those, and then we can die cut them. And then our little Cajun Craze. Let's ink up this leaf with the Cajun Craze, preferably. I got Tangerine Tango here, which dries just a little bit light. You lose some of the details in your leaves. When my Cajun Craze replacement gets here, I'll probably switch over to that. I'm glad I had something in backup though. All right, these guys get punched out, so I'm gonna go ahead and punch them out with the little leaf punch and the Every Season punch pack. There's those little cuties. Before I go to the big shot with my leaves and cut out my tree rings, I'm going to stamp my background. I like to use the rubber stamp backgrounds just directly on the table. I'm going to grab my Stampin' pad and ink directly on the stamp. I like doing it this way because we've got a sturdy surface, a regular flat surface, and we're bringing the ink to that flat surface. The stamp just sits there and receives the ink. You'll get your best even coverage this way. This can also be done in the Stamparatus because this buffalo check tends to give kind of a soft flannel looking finish. If you do it in the Stamparatus, you can re-ink and stamp again, get a little bit stronger coverage if you ink twice and stamp twice. All right, you can see any places that might need a little bit more ink this way too. All right, my stamp is all inked. Now I'm gonna bring the card front to the stamp. I'm just gonna lay it on right centered and then bring some scratch paper over the top. And I'm gonna burnish with my fingertips. And I find that this is my best way of doing background stamping. I get the best complete coverage and control. I don't ever use a block with my background stamps. There's our gorgeous kind of flannel looking buffalo check. Isn't it beautiful? All right, let's clear away the ink pads, do a little cutting, and I'll be right back. We'll get this card assembled. Okay, I'm back and I've fussy cut my little wood slice here, die cut my leaves. Let's go ahead and get this card assembled. Now the first thing I want to do is take my corrugated and my designer series paper. Now I'm going to make these two pieces one. Put a little dry adhesive, some snail, on your designer series paper, and then going to overlap these two about 1/2 inch and equal top and bottom margins. Then we'll flip and we're going to add our dry adhesive on the corrugated. Then we're going to take some Stampin' Dimensionals here. I've got the minis and I've got my paper snips. I'm going to cut up some of this edge here. Got uncovered just a little bit and it's making me crazy sticking to everything, so I'm glad to use it up. Use all the parts of your Stampin' Dimensionals. So I'm putting a couple of pieces right along the corrugated, and then I'll put a few pieces out in the corners and along the edge to support. And what that does is it just lifts up your designer series paper and puts it at the same level as your corrugated. Bring this piece to the card front. And we're gonna nearly center this piece. It's a little bit, just slightly to the left, equal top and bottom, and right to left orientation is just slightly left. Now, we're gonna grab our wood slice and we're gonna glue that one down. It's gonna overlap the right side of the designer series paper a little bit. That's why your layers underneath are slightly off center. Gives you good balance there. Now next up we've got these little sprigs. And what I like to do with them is little multi-purpose liquid glue, so we can slide them around. And we're gonna put just a bit. It doesn't take much to secure them. I like to leave them a little bit loose on the card anyways to give some dimension. And we're just going to lift the very edge of our thankful tree rings and we're going to tuck the sprig right underneath there. Same thing here. We're going to kind of lift the edge of our tree ring and tuck the sprigs right alongside. All right, when you like the placement, move on to the leaves. We'll do the same thing, little multi-purpose liquid glue, and we're going to add them so that they kind of frame the sentiment but don't cover it. Notice how I only put glue on the bottom half, and we want them to kind of peek out to the side a little bit. And I'm going to grab a mini dimensional and I'm going to pop up that top leaf that we didn't glue down. So you get kind of a variety of height here. Same with this one. Next up, more mini Stampin' Dimensionals. I've got halves here, and I'm going to put a half a mini on each of these leaves. My Cajun Craze leaves are sticky, and I'm gonna grab a mini glue dot for my bow. And I'm gonna put my bow just kinda off the center here. We want it a little bit lower on our arrangement than center. We'll go in and cover where these two leaves meet, like the stems, with one Cajun Craze leaf. Send one kind of off the side there under the corrugated, and then one down from the bow. That's our placement, and there's our Thankful Each Day for You card. All right, you guys, if you've got any questions about the project, the products, or events in the Chicago area, Stampin' Up, you can reach out, Marisa at kitchentablestamper.com. Thanks for watching.